There could never be a father loved his daughter more than I love you.
That is a very good question. And that's a question I've been thinking a lot about lately because I actually have been thinking about maybe going back to the States at some point in the future. And with that in mind, as a diabetic, now that I have this whole extra layer of things I need to think about, most of the time when you think about moving, changing countries, you just think, okay, I need a job, I need a place to live, I need food.
Right.
You got those three, you're good to go. But now as a diabetic, I have to make sure that I have my insulin and I have my testing supplies and I can cover all of this stuff that's like an extra layer on top that
Exercise.
qualifies in the same category as air. It's even worse than food because I can go a week or so without food maybe, but I can't go without my insulin. Just can't.
Right. Right.
And so that is something that I have been thinking a lot about lately. And to be honest, with the changes that have been going on lately, and everyone's always arguing about everything in the States, the job market is terrifying, the insurance situation is terrifying. And while it may very well be that I might end up being able to relax more and get better care, find that really good doctor that was up in
Yeah, something like
Stanford,
that.
yeah, it's entirely possible that I could end up in a better situation, but mostly the job market is terrifying. So I don't even know if I would be able to get a job to be able
Right.
to afford my insulin supplies.
Right. And medical,
Hmm.
yeah, 'cause,
And
yeah,
medical, the insurance, even if I don't have a job, that's something that could be a huge expense because I have a pre existing condition now.
right,
And I don't
right.
know how that's changed. I don't know, none of that is really very clear. It's very clear cut in Japan. You have insurance, done, deal.
They also make a lot of, it's very vague. Even,
Mhm.
they make it sound like it's all going to be affordable and all that until
Mhm.
you actually go there, try and sign up for it, and then you find out, well, there's this and there's that. It sounds like you're getting medical insurance. Yes, it's not going to cost too much. But then there's the deductibles and there's the
Mhm.
medications and everything else. They,
Yeah.
they actually tend to add up.
Yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of. Those are the two major things that I'm afraid of. Better treatment, absolutely. Cure, not so much. The reason that I say not so much is because, and I think I've used these words before, but think of when it comes to curing diabetes, everyone's focuses so much on the pancreas and the beta cells and the islets, repairing this damaged tissue. And that's the easy part, which is why people like to focus on it. I mean, it's not easy by any means, but that's something that's
What's causing
way more
damage?
doable as compared to the actual problem with type 1 diabetes, which is far more in the line of AIDS. You've got
Yeah,
an immune system problem, and unless you can imagine coming up with a cure for AIDS in the near future, I don't see, in the same vein, I don't see a cure for type 1 diabetes because my body is attacking itself, and unless we can stop my body from attacking itself, we're not going to be able to cure my condition.
right,
So,
right.
cure, not so much, in the same vein that I don't see a cure for AIDS in the near future. Um,
Maybe artificial pancreas or something.
yeah, that would be what they're working on now these days. There's been a lot in the news about that artificial pancreas, the dual system, the dual pump and CGM, closing the loop,
I think it
allowing
does even more than pumping insulin. I think it actually
glucagon.
pumps glucose as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, it pumps glucagon. Um, and they're working on some new developments to make stabler glucagon, so you're gonna end up with better medicine, better devices. And so I see in the future, definitely within my lifetime, hopefully within the next 10 years, maybe I hope, 5 years, maybe 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, that they'll have the semi-automated diabetic care where I can just eat and I don't have to worry about what I'm eating, and I just I still have to
Right.
stab myself constantly, which is fine, but it's for me the biggest problem actually is not the stabbing myself anymore. I've gotten used to that. And I say stabbing myself, I'm referring to checking my glucose, putting on the patches and everything, the needles. I've gotten used to the needles. But for me, the problem is the late nights. Because sometimes it will just sneak up on you. That last night, the dinner that I had was wheat-based pasta, and it was exceptionally fibery. And so that led my glucose to continually rise until, well, I can actually just look. I love CGM. Led my glucose to continually rise until almost 8 o'clock in the morning. From like, what is that? 8 p.m.? 8 or 9 p.m.? So almost 12 hours, just continually rising. And so I have this huge spike in my glucose where I went really high, and I was bolusing and trying to bring it into control the whole time, and it just wasn't happening. And with a semi-automated system, I was relying on my CGM and my pump. I was manually pushing the buttons, and with a semi-automated system, they would push the buttons for me, so I could just sleep. That would be amazing if I could just sleep all night.
Have it wake you up so you can make the adjustments.
Exactly.
Do it for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be a big one.
Definitely. Not having to worry about going extremely high or extremely low and having to take care of it myself, just knowing that it's going to be okay. That would be nice.
That's the scary part when you're sleeping, because if you don't wake up to take care of it, you may not wake up for quite some
Exactly. And, that depends on everyone. And this is not something I can necessarily advise for anyone else in the whole wide world. But I can assure you, Dad, that in my experience, I have not intentionally done this, but personally, I have actually gone so low as like under 30 points. Under 30 in my glucose. And most people, they start to experience really strange, they get a little delirious around like 50, 60 even. And I've gone under 30. My meter was no longer giving me any numbers. It just said, you are extremely low, fix it now.
Wow.
And I did not pass out. I didn't lose cognitive ability. I was still perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Honestly, I felt really tired. I did feel like I just wanted to lay down. I was too tired. But I didn't feel incapable. When I had a mission, I had to drink the juice. I sat myself up and I drank the juice, and that was it.
Did you appear any altered at all to anyone else? Have you ever spoke to someone else at the time and asked them, do I appear to be altered?
Yeah. And
because sometimes you may be and not realize it. To the outside world, you don't look so good,
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely I didn't look good, and I didn't sound good. I was slurring a little bit, and I was really tired looking, and maybe pale even. But I was still functioning. Whereas if you go on YouTube and you look at, some people who are experiencing some diabetic lows, they're talking craziness.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And if you test them at that point, most people will be, and I'm making assumptions based on what I've seen on YouTube. This doesn't apply to everyone, but most people would be, between 50 and 60, maybe 65 even. There was this one guy who was, and this is kind of maybe a little graphic, but he was instructing his daughter not to eat the cat. And when his wife tested his blood sugar, he was 65.
Wow.
And that blows my mind that someone could lose that connection just because for me it's so different.
Yeah, it's so far gone from just that.
Yeah. So I've never passed out. I've never experienced any crazy cognitive, was it cognitive dissonance, or like when you disconnect from reality? I've never experienced any of that. I know people who've passed out. I've talked to them about it.
That's why I worry about if I have diabetes, just poking myself. The side of I'd probably pass out.
Yeah, you get used to it. Gwen would definitely have to help a lot.
Thank you for watching Diabetic in Japan. Goodbye.